Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, most honored guests. I lived abroad for 7 years, and when I came home, I was really disturbed by something I saw. And I was shocked that I kept seeing it everywhere I went. And what I kept seeing, every single place I seemed to go, was overweight children. So childhood obesity in America, I learned, is a very, very serious problem. And it's literally getting bigger and bigger and bigger. According to the Mayo Clinic, in the last couple decades, the number of obese children in this country has doubled and then tripled. Now, the experts don't agree on just how many obese children there are, but they do agree that there are at least 15% of the children under the age of 17 in this country are now obese. So think about that. That means more than 1 out of 8 children is now obese in this country. According to Martika Heener, who wrote an article titled America 100% Fat, the current generation of children is the first ever predicted to die younger than their parents. Now, the causes of childhood obesity are very complicated. They're economical, they're cultural, there's geographical differences. Some of the experts even think there's political causes for childhood obesity. But the two most basic causes are very simple, and all the experts agree on them, and they've been well known for a long time. And that is, children are simply eating too much, and they're exercising too little. And this results in what the Center for Disease Control calls an energy imbalance. And the energy imbalance occurs whenever anyone, children included, consume a substantial number of calories more than they burn on a regular basis. The question I had when I thought about this was, where are the parents? I mean, after all, isn't it the parents who cook the meals, who buy the groceries, who decide what goes in their children's lunchbox when they go to school? Well, according to MSNBC.com, 49% of the parents in this country reported that they do not have the time to cook a meal on a daily basis anymore. So that's almost 50%. Almost 1 out of 2 families no longer has a home-cooked meal every single day. So what are the parents doing to compensate for this? They're taking their children out to restaurants, and that's a serious problem for a number of reasons. The biggest problem is that restaurants typically serve meals that are loaded in all kinds of things that are bad for you and are insufficient in things that are good for you. And of course, what's far worse than chain restaurants is fast food restaurants, which are notorious for serving meals that are loaded in saturated fat, in sugars, in processed materials, and are also very low in nutrients, very low in vegetables and fruits. And according to CBS News, 1 out of 3 children in this country now eats at a fast food restaurant every single day. 1 out of 3 children is eating at least 1 meal every day, 7 days a week, at a fast food restaurant. And those children who visit fast food restaurants every single day, on average, are 6 pounds heavier than their peers and consume 187 calories more than their peers do. But parents serve another important role, and that important role is that they model appropriate behavior. Children learn from their parents. And what do parents in this country always say to their children? They tell them to do what? To clean their plates, right? And so when children are taken to restaurants that serve disproportionately large portions, and the children are consuming them, it affects the child's ability to understand what an appropriate portion size is. And that's really important because according to dietsmatter.com, the sizes of portions served in restaurants in this country just keeps getting larger and larger. As many of you may know, the typical soda served in the United States in the 1950s at a restaurant was 7 ounces. Today, your typical soda starts at 12 ounces and goes as high to 64, and with unlimited refills, it can be almost anything. Now, in addition to eating too much, children are exercising far too little. And this is a cultural shift. It used to be that children used to play a substantial amount more outdoors than they do now. According to the former Surgeon General Richard Carmona, the average child in the United States now spends 4 hours a day after school doing sedentary activities. They're not playing, they're chatting on their phones, they're chatting on the internet, they're playing video games. And that's why they have extra padding on their bodies. Before I leave you with all this negative news, I want to leave you on a positive note. There is some positive news to report. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, their latest report, which came out last fall, showed that in 19 states, the number of children that are obese has actually declined modestly. And that bolsters a report that was done roughly about the same time in the major metropolitan areas, which also found a very moderate decline in the number of children who are obese. This trend, this is the best trend that we've seen reported in the last 30 years. It didn't cover all 50 states, but in those states that it did cover, it's the broadest positive trend that has been reported in several decades. And that's very important. It's important for our country's future. It's important for children whose lives may depend upon it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm supposed to answer questions, but if you want to ask a question, that's okay.
No, stay up here. We just finished one portion, so he's timing that. Now we're going to go into the next portion. So, anybody for a question, David, after hearing this?
Sure. Thank you for all of your information. At the beginning, you mentioned that there were government and economic causes for childhood obesity, and of the issues you stated, which ones would you cite as being government causing or economic related? Because you mentioned big portions and parental roles.
I must have misspoke. I meant geographical. I said governmental, but economical is one of the things I did state. If you look at Los Angeles County, in Los Angeles County, there are areas of Los Angeles County where for entire miles there are no restaurants other than fast food restaurants. And they tend to be in the lower income areas. In fact, they're almost always in the lower income areas. So if you grow up in one of these areas that is population dense, all your options around you are these McDonald's, Taco Bell's, Del Tacos, etc., which serve these fast food meals that are loaded in saturated fats and sugars and do not have a lot of nutritional value. So one of the interesting things about children and Americans in general now is we're actually overfed and malnourished at the same time. We eat more than anyone else, we consume more than anyone else, but we get less nutritional value for what we eat because of what was served in our restaurants.
Yes, David. Michelle Obama, when they first came into office, started her program for children's school lunches. And it's really took off. A lot of people were adopting it, but it hasn't done so well because the children aren't eating the lunches. They don't like the food. They want the crap back.
Yeah.
Is there any solution for that?
No, it's interesting. The New Yorker magazine did an article on this in Berkeley. Berkeley hired a special chef, a very highly trained chef, to prepare very nutritious school lunches that the children would actually eat, because that's exactly what was happening. They had changed their program so that there would be nutritional meals served, and the kids hated it. The kids wouldn't eat it. They threw it away. They really didn't like it. So this new chef came in where she produced, Berkeley, the school system produced one kitchen that would prepare all the meals for all the schools in the city of Berkeley. And they were all prepared under the guidance of this one master chef, and she had success with it. Now that's a new program. This is another thing that's happening, is that the schools are no longer producing the foods at the school anymore. At a lot of these school districts, the entire city is produced in one location and then shipped out. And so what that means is it just becomes easier and easier for the counties to serve things that are also to get special cut rates on foods that are not the best foods, because they're buying in huge bulk to serve a large number of students. And they're doing things like freezing it and frying it. Frying is a fast way to prepare large amounts of foods. And so this mass-produced is part of the problem But there is good news because there are places like Berkeley that have shown that their program actually can work if you get highly trained chefs to create a menu that children will like. Thank you.